The New York skyline shimmered under the evening lights. But for Jaden Carter, it felt like a city that belonged to everyone except him. He walked through the crowded streets, his hoodie pulled over his head, shielding himself from the world that never noticed him. His stomach growled, a cruel reminder that he hadn't eaten all day. But tonight wasn't about food. It was about his mother. He clutched the few crumpled bills in his pocket, the last of his savings. His mother's birthday was tomorrow, and he wanted to get her something, anything, that would make her smile. She had sacrificed everything for him, and now all he had to offer was a cheap scarf from a street vendor. His steps slowed as he passed by La Belle Luxe, the most extravagant luxury store in the city. The glass windows displayed diamond-encrusted watches, Italian suits, and designer handbags that cost more than his entire life savings. Inside, the wealthy laughed, sipped champagne, and shopped as if money was just another accessory. For a moment, he let himself dream. What if he could walk in, pick something beautiful for his mother, and place it in a velvet box? What if, just for once, he didn't have to choose between survival and love? His fingers curled into a fist. Dreams were for the privileged. People like him were just ghosts in a city that never cared. Taking a deep breath, he turned away and kept walking. Tonight wasn't about wishing. It was about survival. The apartment smelled of damp walls and old regret. Jaden pushed open the door, the creak echoing through the small, dimly lit space. His mother sat by the window, her frail hands wrapped around a cup of tea, staring at the city lights as if they held answers she had spent her whole life searching for. "You're late," she said softly, not turning to face him. "Work ran long," he lied, placing the scarf he had bought on the table. "Happy early birthday, Mom." She glanced at it, her tired eyes filling with warmth. "You didn't have to, Jaden." But he did. It was the least he could do. Sitting beside her, he watched as she ran her fingers over the fabric. It wasn't silk. It wasn't designer. But she held it as if it was the most precious thing in the world. "One day," he said, more to himself than to her, "I'll buy you something from La Belle Luxe." She chuckled, shaking her head. "I don't need expensive things, sweetheart. Just seeing you happy is enough for me." But that was the problem. He wasn't happy. He was drowning. And no matter how hard he worked, it felt like the world had already decided that he would never be anything more than invisible. His mother placed a hand on his. "You have a good heart, Jaden, and that's worth more than anything money can buy." He forced a smile, but inside, something burned. A hunger. A fire. Love was beautiful, but the world ran on power. And tomorrow, he would step into a world that would remind him exactly how powerless he was. The next morning, Jaden stood outside La Belle Luxe, staring at the entrance as if it were a gate to another world. Wealthy customers walked in and out, their designer bags hanging off their wrists like trophies. The air smelled of expensive perfume and exclusivity. He took a deep breath. Today he would step inside, not to shop, he could never afford that, but to experience, to see what it felt like to be among the rich, even if just for a moment. Maybe one day when life turned in his favor, he'd return as someone who belonged. His fingers twitched as he reached for the golden door handle. One step inside, and everything changed. A sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey, stop right there." Jaden froze. A tall security guard in a crisp suit marched toward him, his eyes filled with instant judgment. "Can I help you?" Jaden asked, keeping his voice calm. The guard's gaze swept over Jaden's worn-out sneakers, his old hoodie, the exhaustion in his eyes. This is a luxury establishment, not a shelter. Move along. A few customers turned to stare, whispers already spreading. Jaden felt the heat rise in his chest, a mixture of anger and humiliation tightening around his throat. "I just wanted to look," he said, his jaw clenched. The guard let out a small laugh. "People like you don't look in places like this. You either buy or you leave." Jaden's fingers curled into a fist. The weight of the city, the struggles, the endless cycle of being pushed aside, it all boiled over in that moment. But what could he do? Argue? Fight? No one here cared. Without another word, he turned around and walked away. But as he did, something shifted inside him. Not defeat, not surrender. A promise. One day, he would return, and when he did, they wouldn't just let him in. They would hold the doors open for him. Jaden walked the streets of New York, his mind racing, his fists clenched. The humiliation still burned in his chest. They didn't see a man when they looked at him. They saw nothing. The city roared around him, honking cars, flashing billboards, people rushing with purpose. But Jaden felt disconnected, as if he was just drifting through a world that didn't belong to him. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through job listings, minimum wage, long hours, dead ends. He had spent years working his way up from dishwashing to a small sales job, but it was never enough. The dream of something bigger felt so far away. His screen lit up with a message from his childhood friend, Noah Sinclair. "Noah. Still in the city? Need to talk. Big opportunity. Call me." Jaden's brows furrowed. He hadn't seen Noah in years, not since high school when their lives had taken completely different paths. Jaden had struggled to survive, while Noah had stepped into a world of wealth, power, and connections. He hesitated for a moment before dialing. "Jaden." Noah's voice was smooth, confident. "You free to meet?" Jaden exhaled. "What's this about?" "A chance to change your life." Jaden's grip on the phone tightened. He had heard those words before, promises that led nowhere. But something in Noah's tone felt different. "Where?" Jaden asked. "Manhattan Tower. My office. You won't regret it." Jaden glanced down at his worn-out sneakers and faded hoodie. He had just been kicked out of a luxury store, and now he was about to walk into one of the most elite buildings in New York. Whatever Noah had planned, Jaden was ready. Jaden stood outside Manhattan Tower, staring up at the gleaming skyscraper that seemed to touch the clouds. It was a world away from the run-down apartments and street corners he knew. The kind of place where men in tailored suits sealed million-dollar deals over whiskey. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The lobby was a masterpiece of marble floors, gold accents, and an air of quiet power. People walked past him, dressed in luxury brands he had only seen in magazines. Their conversations were smooth, controlled, talking about investments, stocks, and weekend getaways to Europe. Jaden felt the receptionist's eyes on him the moment he approached. The same judgment he had faced outside La Belle Luxe. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice polite but cold. "I'm here to see Noah Sinclair." Her expression changed instantly. "Oh, Mr. Sinclair's guest?" "Of course. He's expecting you." Jaden followed her to the private elevator, feeling the stares from others in the lobby. This time, no one could kick him out. As the elevator doors opened to the penthouse office, Noah stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, looking like he had stepped straight out of a Forbes magazine cover. Perfect suit, confident smirk, untouchable aura. "Jaden Carter," Noah said, turning to him. "It's been a long time." Jaden crossed his arms. "You said you had a big opportunity. What is it?" Noah studied him for a moment, then smirked. "Tell me, Jaden, how would you like to own La Belle Lux?" Silence. Jaden let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "You're joking, right?" Noah leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Do I look like I joke about money?" Jaden's pulse quickened. Was this even possible? The store that humiliated him yesterday. Could he really come back not as a customer, but as its owner? He didn't know how. He didn't know why Noah was offering this, but he knew one thing for sure. He wanted in. Jaden leaned forward, his heart pounding. What's the catch? Noah smirked, swirling the whiskey in his glass. Smart question. Nothing comes free in this world, Jaden. But you already know that. Jaden stayed silent, his instincts on high alert. He had spent his whole life being told opportunities existed, only to find they were scams or dead ends. This felt different. Noah walked over to his desk, picking up a sleek black folder. La Belle Lux is drowning in debt, he said. Their biggest investors are backing out, and the CEO? Clueless. They need a miracle. Jaden frowned. And you think I'm that miracle? Noah chuckled. Number I am. He tossed the folder onto the desk. I have the connections, the capital, and the leverage to buy it out. But I need a face for this deal. Someone unexpected. Someone who will turn this takeover into a media spectacle. Jaden's eyes narrowed. You mean a puppet? Noah's smirk didn't waver. I mean a partner, a symbol of change. Imagine the headlines. From rags to riches, the man they threw out now owns it all. The world eats that up. Investors will flock. The store's value will skyrocket. And you go from a nobody to the face of a multi-million-dollar empire. Jaden's breath caught. It was insane. Unreal. A fantasy. But wasn't that what he had dreamed of? A chance to rewrite his story? He looked down at the folder, his fingers itching to open it, the contract that could change everything. Noah's voice softened. You walked into that store yesterday, and they saw nothing. Take this deal, and when you walk back in, they'll bow. Jaden swallowed hard. Every instinct told him this was dangerous, that Noah wasn't offering this out of kindness. But this was his shot, his moment. His fingers tightened around the folder. I'm in. Noah's smirk widened. Good choice. Jaden sat in Noah's sleek office, staring at the contract in front of him. His name, printed in bold letters, was just one signature away from being tied to something bigger than he had ever imagined. Write it carefully, Noah said, leaning back in his chair. Once you sign, there's no turning back. Jaden's fingers grazed the edge of the paper. The terms were clear. He would be the public face of La Belle Lux, but Noah would retain controlling power. It was a strategic move, a play on optics. The world loved an underdog story, and Jaden was about to become one. Why me? Jaden asked, looking up. You could pick anyone. Someone with a business degree, connections, someone rich. Noah smirked. Exactly. They expect that. But you're the disruption. You're the unexpected twist in the script. And that's what makes money. Jaden exhaled. He wasn't stupid. He knew Noah was using him. But was that so bad if it meant getting everything he ever wanted? He picked up the pen. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The tip of the pen touched the paper. His mind flashed back to yesterday, the security guard blocking his path, the humiliation, the stares. Not anymore. With a steady breath, he signed his name. Noah's grin widened as he extended his hand. Welcome to the Empire. Jaden shook it, feeling the weight of his decision settle in. Noah pressed a button on his desk. Let's make it official. The door opened, and a woman walked in. Tall, poised, exuding power. Riley Kensington, public relations strategist, media manipulator. The kind of woman who could spin any story into gold. She took one look at Jaden and smirked. Let's turn you into a legend. Riley Kensington circled Jaden like a predator sizing up its prey. Rough around the edges, she murmured, tilting her head. But that's the appeal, isn't it? Jaden crossed his arms. I'm sitting right here, you know, she smirked. Good. Then listen carefully, because from this moment on, you don't belong to yourself anymore. You are an image, a brand, a story the world will consume. Jaden felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just about signing a contract. It was about becoming something else. Someone else. Noah leaned against his desk, amused. Riley's the best in the business. If anyone can turn you into the next big thing, it's her. Riley tapped her manicured nails against the table. First things first. Your look. No offense, but the guy who works 3 jobs and eats ramen aesthetic isn't gonna cut it. Jaden raised a brow. And what exactly do you have in mind? She smiled like she had been waiting for that question. A full transformation. The man who got thrown out of a luxury store is about to become its owner. You need to look the part. Jaden clenched his jaw. This wasn't just about wearing expensive clothes. It was about erasing the version of himself the world had ignored. Could he really do that? Riley didn't wait for an answer. She grabbed her phone. I'm booking a stylist, a wardrobe consultant, and a grooming team. You'll be in the headlines by next week, and when you walk back into that store... She leaned in, eyes gleaming. They won't even recognize you. Jaden exhaled. This was happening. Noah clapped his hands. Let's make history. And just like that, the old Jaden Carter was about to disappear. Jaden stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the man staring back at him. Gone were the worn-out sneakers, the faded jeans, the hoodie he had worn for years. In their place, a tailored Tom Ford suit, sleek Italian loafers, and a watch that probably cost more than his entire apartment. Unreal, he muttered under his breath. Riley stood behind him, arms crossed, inspecting every detail like a sculptor admiring their latest masterpiece. Better, but confidence sells it. Right now, you still look like a guy who doesn't belong in that suit. Jaden turned to her. Maybe because I don't. Riley's eyes flashed. You do now. Own it. Noah strolled in, smirking. Damn, Carter. Didn't know you cleaned up this well. Jaden adjusted the cuff of his shirt. The silk fabric felt foreign against his skin. Everything about this felt foreign. Riley stepped forward, pressing a file into his hands. Memorize everything in here. Your backstory, your business philosophy, your inspiration. If the press asks why you're buying La Belle Luxe, you tell them it's because you believe luxury should be for everyone. Make them love you. Jaden flipped through the pages. A carefully constructed narrative. A lie, dressed as the truth. Noah chuckled. This is the fun part, Jaden. You're not just buying a company. You're stepping into a world that never wanted you. And now, you make them play by your rules. Jaden exhaled, his grip tightening on the file. Tomorrow, he would walk back into La Belle Luxe, not as a customer, but as their new owner. And this time, no one would dare stop him. The sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of La Belle Luxe, its polished exterior reflecting the towering glass windows of the luxury store. Jayden sat in the back seat, fingers tapping against his watch, his pulse steady, but his mind was anything but. This was it. Yesterday, he had been humiliated at this very entrance. Today, he was walking in as the man who owned it. Riley, seated beside him, scrolled through her phone, completely unfazed. Press is already inside. Keep your posture straight, walk with purpose, and don't react to anything. You're the king now. Act like it. Jayden glanced at Noah, who smirked. Ready for the show? He pushed open the door, stepping onto the pavement. The moment his polished shoes hit the ground, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted his name, microphones stretched forward, the buzz of curiosity filling the air. Mr. Carter, how does it feel to own LaBelle Lux after yesterday's incident? Is this a revenge move? What's your first order of business as the new owner? Jayden adjusted his cufflinks, every movement slow and deliberate. Then, with a small smirk, he looked straight into the cameras. I just came to shop. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Calm, confident, untouchable. The security guard from yesterday, the same one who had thrown him out, stood by the entrance, his face pale. His eyes darted around, as if hoping this was all a mistake. Jayden stepped forward. The man stiffened. Jayden didn't stop. He simply walked past him, through the grand glass doors, into the very place that had once denied him. And this time, no one dared to stop him. The hush inside LaBelle Lux was deafening. Employees who had once dismissed Jayden now stood frozen, their polished smiles faltering as he walked past. The weight of his presence shifted the entire atmosphere. He could feel their eyes on him, a mix of shock, confusion, and thinly veiled fear. Yesterday, they had treated him like an outsider. Today, he was the man who controlled their paychecks. Riley trailed behind him, watching with sharp amusement. Enjoying the view? Jayden smirked but said nothing. He wasn't here for petty revenge. He was here to make a statement. As he approached the main counter, a familiar voice stammered, Chloe. The sales associate who had looked him up and down with disdain less than 24 hours ago. Her face had lost its arrogance. Now it was pure panic. Mr. Carter, she stuttered. I didn't realize. Jayden tilted his head. That I'd be back? She swallowed hard. I apologize if there was any misunderstanding yesterday. Riley leaned in, her voice silky smooth. Oh, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a very clear dismissal, wasn't it? Chloe's face turned red. I was just following store policy. Policy? Jayden interrupted, tapping his fingers against the glass counter. Remind me. Does store policy include humiliating customers who don't look the part? Silence. Chloe's eyes darted around, desperate for backup, but no one spoke. They all knew the power had shifted. Noah chuckled behind him. Relax, Jayden's not here to fire anyone. Not yet, at least. Chloe exhaled shakily, relief flickering across her face. Jayden, however, wasn't finished. He leaned in slightly, his voice even. But things are changing. Starting today, this store operates under a new vision. He straightened, letting his words settle. And I don't tolerate discrimination. If I ever hear about something like this happening again, you won't just lose a customer, you'll lose your job. Chloe's lips parted, but she knew better than to argue. She nodded quickly. Understood, sir. Jayden nodded once, satisfied. Then, with a casual glance at the rows of luxury watches behind the glass, he smiled. Now, let's see what's worth buying. Jayden walked through LaBelle Lux, his presence commanding attention. Employees scrambled to adjust their posture, their forced smiles betraying the unease beneath. Yesterday, they had ignored him. Today, they feared him. He paused by a glass display of luxury watches, each timepiece a symbol of wealth and exclusivity. The same watches he had been deemed unworthy to even glance at. A sales associate hesitated before stepping forward. "Mr. Carter, may I assist you?" Jayden didn't respond immediately. He ran his fingers over the glass, eyes scanning the collection with deliberate slowness. The power was intoxicating, but he wasn't here just for that. He picked up a sleek Rolex, the weight of it grounding him. "Wrap it up," he said simply. The associate nodded quickly, hands slightly unsteady as she packaged the watch. No hesitation, no questioning his status. As he turned, his gaze landed on a familiar figure, the store manager. The same man who had coldly watched him get thrown out just a day ago. Now, the arrogance was gone, replaced by quiet dread. Jayden walked up to him, standing just close enough for the tension to thicken. "I assume you've heard the news." The manager swallowed. "Yes, sir. Congratulations on your acquisition." Jayden let the silence stretch, then simply nodded. "Good. Let's make sure this store earns its reputation the right way." Without waiting for a response, he took his package and strode toward the exit. Yesterday, he had been rejected. Today, he walked out as the man in charge. And this was just the beginning. Jayden stepped out of La Belle Luxe, the crisp evening air hitting his face. The city never slept, and neither did Power. The reporters were still outside, their cameras flashing, their voices calling his name. But he didn't stop. He had made his statement inside. Now, the world would see the results. Riley walked beside him, her heels clicking against the pavement. "You handled that well," she said, amusement lacing her voice. Jayden gave a small smirk. "Did you expect anything less?" Noah chuckled behind them. "The best part? Watching their faces when you walked in. That manager looked like he saw a ghost." Jayden's grip on the bag tightened. Yesterday, they had dismissed him. Today, they were at his mercy. As he approached his car, a soft voice called out, "Excuse me, sir." He turned. A young boy, barely a teenager, stood there. His clothes were simple, his sneakers worn out. Jayden raised a brow. "Yes?" The boy hesitated, then pointed at his watch bag. "That's a nice Rolex." Jayden glanced at it, then back at the boy. There was no mockery in his eyes, just admiration. "You like watches?" Jayden asked. The boy nodded eagerly. "I read about them online. I want to own one someday." Jayden studied him for a moment. The hunger in his eyes was familiar. The same hunger Jayden had once carried. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his old watch, the one he had worn for years before he could afford luxury. He handed it to the boy. "Start with this," he said. The boy's eyes widened. "For real?" Jayden nodded. "Work hard. Someday you'll buy your own." The boy clutched the watch, his smile brighter than any diamond in that store. "Thank you, sir." Jayden didn't say anything else. He just got into his car, the door shutting out the noise of the city. Some victories were measured in power, others in moments like this. And Jayden Carter had won both. Jayden leaned back in his leather seat as the car pulled away from La Belle Luxe. The city lights blurred past, but his mind was sharp, focused. Power wasn't just about money. It was about what you did with it. Riley scrolled through her phone. "The internet is losing its mind over you." She turned the screen toward him. Headlines flashed. From rejection to ownership, Jaden Carter's iconic revenge. Millionaire humiliates store that refused him and buys it. Jaden smirked. Let them talk. The world loved stories like these. Underdogs rising, tables turning. But for him, this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about control. Noah, sitting in the front, glanced back. You really plan to keep that store? Jaden's fingers tapped against the armrest. Why not? You don't need it. Jaden exhaled, looking out the window. No, he didn't need it. But it wasn't about need. It was about legacy. The car slowed down at a red light. Outside, a billboard flickered with an ad for LaBelle Lux, featuring a model in a $1,000 suit. Soon, that ad would have his name on it. He turned back to Riley. I want a full audit of the store. Employee records, finances, everything. She nodded. And if something's off? Jaden's voice was cold. Then we clean house. The light turned green. The car surged forward. Yesterday, he was just another man they dismissed. Today, he was the force that would reshape everything. And this was only the beginning. Jaden stepped into his penthouse, the city skyline stretching endlessly beyond the glass walls. This view, this power, it was all his. Riley followed, dropping a folder on the marble counter. The store's financials. You're gonna love this. Jaden flipped it open. Numbers, reports, employee details. And then, red flags. He chuckled. They were struggling. Riley smirked. More than struggling. High debts, unpaid vendors, and a manager who's been pocketing cash for years. Jaden's eyes darkened. So they turned away customers while bleeding money? Pathetic. Noah leaned against the bar, sipping whiskey. You could sell it off. Flip it for profit. Jaden closed the folder. Number, I'll rebuild it. Riley raised a brow. Why? Sentimental value? Jaden smirked. Because when I turn it into the most successful luxury brand in the city, they'll remember who they underestimated. Power wasn't just about taking. It was about creating. And Jaden Carter? He was about to create an empire. The next morning, Jaden arrived at LaBelle Lux, but this time, he wasn't a customer. He was the owner. The staff stood in a nervous line, their faces tense. The same manager who had refused him that day was at the front, sweating. Jaden took his time walking past them, his presence alone commanding respect. Then, he turned to Riley, who held a list. She began reading. Effective immediately, these employees are terminated for fraud, misconduct, and unprofessionalism. The manager's face turned pale. Sir, please, this is a misunderstanding. Jaden met his eyes, his expression unreadable. Number, the misunderstanding was thinking you had power here. Security escorted the fired staff out. The rest stood silent, waiting for what came next. Jaden looked at them. For those who remain, understand this. I don't tolerate mediocrity. You work hard, you stay. You cheat, you're out. And from today, this store will be the best in the city. If you're not ready for that, walk away now. Silence. No one moved. Jaden smirked. Good. They understood. He turned toward the large glass doors. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that LaBelle Lux had just been reborn. And soon, everyone would know his name. Jaden sat in his new office on the top floor of LaBelle Lux, the city skyline stretching beyond the massive glass windows. This was his throne now. Riley placed a thick file in front of him. Rebranding strategies. You're officially the new face of luxury. Jaden flipped through the pages. Store redesigns, marketing plans, influencer collaborations. It was bold. It was powerful. It was him. Noah leaned against the desk. People are talking, Jaden. They want to see what you do next. Jaden smirked. Then let's give them a show. He picked up the phone and dialed his PR team. We're hosting a relaunch event. Invite the press, the elites, the same people who once ignored me. Let them see what real power looks like. Riley grinned. This is going to be legendary. Jaden leaned back in his chair, eyes gleaming. He didn't just buy a store, he was building an empire. And the world? They were about to witness the rise of Jaden Carter. The grand reopening of La Belle Luxe was nothing short of a spectacle. Golden chandeliers, black marble floors, and champagne flowing like water. The air buzzed with excitement as the city's elite gathered, eager to witness the transformation. Jaden arrived last, stepping out of his black Rolls-Royce in a tailored suit that screamed power. Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. Inside, he walked through the transformed space, every detail reflecting his vision, his dominance. Riley and Noah stood by, watching as guests whispered. "That's him?" a woman murmured. "The one they refused service to?" another asked. Jaden smirked. Now they all knew. He stepped onto the stage. "Welcome to the new era of luxury." His voice was smooth, commanding. "Some of you may remember when this store turned away a customer they deemed unworthy." He let that sink in. "That customer was me, and now I own it." Gasps, whispers. The weight of his words settled. He raised his glass. To success, to power, to never being underestimated again. The crowd erupted in applause. The message was clear. Jaden Carter had arrived, and he wasn't going anywhere. The after-party was held at Jaden's penthouse, a rooftop paradise overlooking the entire city. Expensive wine, soft jazz, and a guest list filled with the most powerful people in town. Riley clinked her glass with Noah's. "He really did it," she whispered, watching Jaden from across the room. Jaden stood by the glass railing, looking down at the city that once dismissed him. Now it belonged to him. Enjoying the view? A familiar voice. He turned. Madeline Hastings, a socialite, a legacy of old money. The same woman who once mocked his presence in La Belle Luxe. Jaden smirked. "It looks better from up here." She sipped her drink, eyes scanning him. "You've changed." "No, Madeline," he said, voice sharp. "I just stopped pretending." She chuckled. "Power suits you, Carter. But tell me, do you still believe in fairness? Or is revenge the new luxury?" Jaden's jaw clenched. He leaned in slightly, just enough to make her nervous. "Revenge," he whispered, "is just another form of justice." Her smile faltered. She knew then. He wasn't just playing their game anymore. He was rewriting the rules. Jaden leaned back in his leather chair, his office bathed in the golden glow of city lights. A man at the top, untouchable. Or so he thought. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Power can be taken as easily as it's earned. Watch your back." His jaw tightened. He wasn't the type to be threatened, but this felt different. Riley walked in, holding a folder. "You need to see this." She placed it on his desk. Bank records, business deals, property holdings. Every move he had made since acquiring La Belle Luxe. "Someone's digging," she said. "And they're not just looking for dirt. They're looking for a way to bring you down." Jaden exhaled slowly. The hunter was being hunted. His rise had been fast. But now someone wanted to make sure his fall was even faster. And he wasn't about to let that happen. Jaden stood by the window, gripping a glass of whiskey. The city stretched before him, his kingdom. But tonight, it felt different, like something was slipping from his grasp. Riley's words echoed in his mind. "They're looking for a way to bring you down." Who? Why now? He had enemies, sure, but none bold enough to move against him like this. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. You built your empire on secrets. Now those secrets will bury you. His grip tightened, a direct challenge. Jayden wasn't the type to sit back and watch. He thrived on control. And whoever thought they could shake him was about to learn just how dangerous he could be. He picked up his phone, dialing a number he hadn't called in years. It's me, he said. Find out who's behind this, and make sure they regret it. The game had just changed, and Jayden never played to lose. Jayden sat in his office, eyes scanning the security footage. Every move in his empire was recorded, every shadow documented. But whoever was behind this, they were careful. Too careful. Riley entered, her expression tense. It's bad, Jayden. Someone leaked financial reports. Investors are pulling back. Jayden exhaled slowly. A direct hit. How much damage? He asked, voice steady. A few million. But the real problem? The media is on it. They're calling it fraud. Jayden clenched his jaw. Fraud? Him? He had played the game better than anyone, and now someone was rewriting the rules. He grabbed his phone. I want names, locations, weaknesses. Whoever did this just made the biggest mistake of their life. This wasn't just business anymore. This was war. Jayden's fingers tapped rhythmically against his desk. He had built his empire with precision, but now someone was dismantling it, piece by piece. The room was dimly lit, the glow from his laptop casting sharp shadows. Riley stood across from him, arms crossed. I traced the leaks, she said. It leads back to someone inside. Jayden's gaze snapped to her. Inside? The numbers don't lie, she continued. Someone close to you is feeding the media. Jayden leaned back, inhaling deeply, a traitor in his own ranks. A slow smirk crept onto his face. Good. Let them think they've won. Riley frowned. What's the plan? Jayden's voice dropped, dangerously low. We set the trap. This wasn't about defense anymore. It was time for the hunter to become the prey. The city lights flickered outside Jayden's penthouse, but his focus was elsewhere. He stood by the window, swirling a glass of whiskey, his mind racing. Betrayal. Someone close to him had turned against him. Riley sat on the couch, typing rapidly on her laptop. I ran another search. The leaks started a month ago, right after that charity gala. Jayden's grip tightened. That night, his world had seemed perfect. He had no idea a storm was already brewing. A sudden thought struck him. His eyes darkened. What if it's someone I trust the most? Riley hesitated. Then you already know what you have to do. Silence filled the room. Jayden wasn't just going to find the traitor. He was going to destroy them. Jayden stepped into his office, the air thick with tension. He knew someone had betrayed him, and tonight, he would uncover the truth. Riley was already there, her expression unreadable. I traced the last data breach, she said, sliding a file toward him. It leads to someone inside your circle. Jayden flipped open the file. His eyes narrowed. The evidence pointed to Ethan, his closest friend, his right-hand man. His jaw clenched. After everything I did for him? Riley watched him carefully. Are you sure you're ready for this? Jayden exhaled sharply. I don't have a choice. Tomorrow, Ethan would pay. Jayden watched the city lights from his penthouse, his mind racing. Betrayal burned in his chest, like fire. Ethan, his most trusted friend, had stabbed him in the back. The elevator dinged. Ethan walked in, casual, as if he hadn't sold Jayden out. Jaden didn't move. You called me? Ethan asked. Jaden tossed the file on the table. Explain this. Ethan's face paled. A flicker of guilt flashed in his eyes, but he masked it with a smirk. You really think I'd do this to you? Jaden's voice was ice. I don't think, I know. A long silence stretched between them. Then Ethan sighed, dropping the act. Fine. You weren't supposed to find out. Jaden's fists clenched. This was war now. Jaden's grip tightened around his whiskey glass. Ethan sat across from him, completely unbothered, like this was just another business deal. I trusted you, Jaden said, his voice dangerously low. Ethan shrugged. Trust is for fools. You, of all people, should know that. Jaden's jaw clenched. The betrayal stung, but he wouldn't let Ethan see it. What did they offer you? Ethan smirked. Enough to make switching sides worth it. Jaden leaned back, studying him. And you think they won't betray you next? Ethan chuckled. Doesn't matter. By the time they try, I'll be untouchable. Jaden's lips curled into a slow, cold smile. You always did underestimate me. For the first time, Ethan hesitated. Jaden picked up his phone. It was time to end this game. Jaden's fingers hovered over the send button. One message, and it would all be over. Ethan leaned forward, a smirk playing on his lips. Go ahead, make your move. Jaden met his gaze, unreadable. You really think this is a game? Ethan chuckled. It always has been. The one with the better strategy wins. Jaden exhaled slowly. His anger was controlled, precise. And what happens when the board flips? Ethan's smirk faltered, just for a second. Jaden pressed send. Within moments, Ethan's phone buzzed. His face changed. What did you do? Jaden stood up, fixing his suit jacket. Check your accounts. Ethan's hands flew to his phone. His smirk vanished. Jaden walked past him, pausing at the door. Game over. And then he was gone. Ethan gripped his phone tighter, his pulse hammering in his ears. His screen flashed warning after warning, frozen assets, blocked transactions, revoked access. This isn't possible, he muttered, swiping furiously. Jaden's move had been precise, ruthless. The door burst open. Noah stormed in, his face pale. Ethan, we have a problem. Ethan barely looked up. I know. No. Noah swallowed. It's worse. The board is turning against you. Ethan's heart clenched. The empire he had built, his power, his control, was slipping through his fingers. Jaden had done more than just strike. He had ended him. A slow realization dawned. Jaden hadn't been playing the game. He had been rewriting the rules, and Ethan never saw it coming. Ethan's hands trembled as he read the message again. Your shares have been liquidated. His empire, his fortune, gone. He exhaled sharply, trying to steady himself, but his mind was spinning. Jaden had planned everything, every single move. Noah clenched his jaw. What's the next step? Ethan didn't answer. He was trapped, cornered like never before. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. A slow chuckle echoed through the speaker. Jaden. Did you really think I'd let you win, Ethan? Ethan's grip tightened. You think this is over? Oh, it's far from over, Jaden mused. But you're done. The line went dead. Ethan stared ahead, his chest rising and falling. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Ethan threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall with a loud crack, but he didn't care. His entire empire had been stolen in a matter of hours. Noah stood there, silent, waiting for Ethan's next move. Call Logan, Ethan said, his voice cold. Noah hesitated. Are you sure? I don't care, Ethan cut him off. I need every piece of information on Jaden, now. Noah nodded and stepped out. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his jaw tight. Jaden thought he had won, but Ethan wasn't a man who lost easily. His fortune might be gone, but his power wasn't. And if Jaden wanted war, Ethan would burn everything down. Ethan sat in his darkened office, the city lights casting long shadows across the room. His mind was racing, but his heart? Cold, calculating, dangerous. Noah walked in, placing a file on the table. Logan delivered. Everything on Jaden is in here. Ethan flipped through the pages. Fraud, embezzlement, illegal deals. Jaden had built his empire on corruption. And now, Ethan had proof. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. Jaden thinks he won. Let's remind him who he's dealing with. Noah smirked. What's the plan? Ethan leaned back, his fingers steepled. First, we leak this to the press. Let the world see the truth. Then, we take back what's ours, piece by piece, brick by brick. Noah nodded. And Jaden himself? Ethan's eyes darkened. He wanted a war. Let's give him one. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jaden's world was falling apart. The morning headlines screamed his crimes: fraud, embezzlement, offshore accounts. Every news channel, every social media platform was on fire. His empire was crumbling. He stormed into his office, slamming the door shut. His assistant, pale and shaking, stammered, "Sir, the board members, they're demanding an emergency meeting." Jaden's jaw clenched. This was Ethan's doing. No one else had the power, the intelligence, or the ruthlessness to pull this off. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He picked up. Jaden. Ethan's voice was ice cold. You underestimated me. Jaden gritted his teeth. You think this is over? Ethan chuckled, a slow, mocking laugh. Oh no, this is just the beginning. Jaden's fists clenched. I'll destroy you. Ethan's voice remained calm. You already destroyed yourself. I just showed the world the truth. Silence. Jaden exhaled sharply. What do you want? Everything, Ethan said. Your company, your reputation, your power. Jaden's pulse pounded. You can have the company, but I will never let you win. Ethan's voice was like steel. You already lost. The line went dead. Jaden looked around his office, his empire burning before his eyes. And Ethan, he was the one holding the match. Jaden sat in his chair, staring at the large glass windows of his office. The city stretched before him, but for the first time, it didn't feel like his. Everything was slipping away. His company, his reputation, his power. The office door burst open. His lawyer, Thomas, walked in, his face tense. Jaden, we need to talk, the board. I know, Jaden cut in, his voice hollow. Thomas dropped a file onto the desk. They're voting to remove you. Ethan's takeover is almost complete. Jaden let out a bitter laugh. Of course they are. No one stands with a sinking ship. You need to fight back. Jaden looked up, his eyes dark. With what? Ethan exposed every weakness I had. Thomas hesitated. Then carefully he said, Maybe it's time to walk away. Jaden's hands clenched. Walk away? From something he built with his blood, sweat, and lies? The phone rang. Ethan. Jaden picked up. Jaden, Ethan said smoothly. How does it feel? Jaden smirked. You tell me, Ethan. After all, you spent years trying to bring me down. And I succeeded, Ethan said. Tomorrow, you'll be nothing. Silence stretched between them. Then Jaden chuckled. You really think this is over? Ethan's voice didn't waver. Number, but you're running out of moves. Jaden leaned back. You want to play, Ethan? Let's play. The line went dead. Thomas looked at him. Jayden, whatever you're planning. Jayden stood, his jaw tight. Ethan wanted war? He would get war. Tomorrow he would walk into that boardroom and prove that Jayden Blackwell was far from finished. The boardroom was silent as Jayden stepped inside. The air was thick with tension. Every eye in the room was on him, waiting to see how he would react to his downfall. Ethan sat at the head of the table, his expression smug. The board members, once loyal to Jayden, now whispered among themselves, their gazes flickering with doubt. Jayden, Ethan said smoothly, leaning back in his chair. You're just in time. We were about to finalize your removal. Jayden smiled, but there was no warmth in it. He walked slowly, deliberately to his seat at the table. I built this company from nothing, he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. And now, you think you can just take it away? Ethan chuckled. It's not about what I think. It's about what you've done. Fraud, manipulation, and let's not forget, losing the trust of your investors. Jayden leaned forward. And yet, I'm still sitting here. That must bother you, Ethan. A flicker of irritation crossed Ethan's face, but he recovered quickly. Enough of this. Let's put it to a vote. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, others hesitated. Doubt. It was all Jayden needed. Before you vote, Jayden said, his voice commanding, let me remind you of something. Ethan may have exposed my weaknesses, but do you really think he's clean? The boardroom stilled. Jayden pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Ethan's smirk faltered. Go ahead, Jayden said. Read it. One of the members picked it up, eyes scanning the contents. The color drained from his face. Ethan, is this true? Ethan's jaw tightened. It's a distraction. Jayden leaned back, his smirk returning. Or maybe it's checkmate. The whispers grew louder. The tide was turning. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. This isn't over. Jayden's eyes burned with cold fire. Oh, Ethan, it hasn't even begun. Ethan's face darkened as the boardroom buzzed with whispers. The once confident smirk was gone, replaced by something colder, fear. Jayden stood, buttoning his suit jacket. His movements were slow, controlled, powerful. He turned to the board, his voice smooth but sharp. This company was built on trust, he said, and trust is earned, not stolen. His gaze flicked to Ethan. Unlike certain people in this room, I don't need deception to win. Ethan slammed a fist on the table. You think you've won? His voice was tight, desperate. You think this is over? Jayden chuckled softly. Oh, Ethan. It was over the moment you tried to play my game. He turned toward the exit, the weight of victory settling around him. The empire he built was his again. Ethan gritted his teeth. I'll destroy you. Jayden paused at the door, his back to Ethan. Then, without turning, he spoke the final words that sealed Ethan's fate. You already did that to yourself. And with that, he walked away. The king reclaiming his throne,